Okay, we live, Shaikh.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala rasulihil kareem wa alihi wa sahbihi wa man ittaba'ahu ila yawmiddin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu rahmatullah.
Okay, so we've been talking about Surah Nisa yesterday. We started our conversation on what is Surah Nisa. Now, again, we're on a journey through the Quran. And in the course of our journey, what we're doing is we're seeing how each one of the surahs has an objective. And that objective is to take us one step further in understanding how to live like, I guess, humans. You know, in the most perfect way. Okay, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to. So we learned how to pray for guidance. We learned what the steps to and the mindset to accepting guidance, right? In Surah Al-Baqarah. And then we moved and learned that we have to be firm upon that guidance. And it's all based on Tawheed, different angles. All based on those pillars of Iman, that we're going to be accountable. There's a Yawm al-Din, we're indebted to Allah for giving us life, right? That in order that, because Allah is testing us, He's made certain things attractive to us, okay? Amongst the things that He's made attractive to us is women. Amongst the things that is a fitna for us is women. But what's the fitna for women? Ladies? If the men's fitna is women, that's the first and the largest, and the hardest and the most difficult fitna men have. And Allah says, and we'll see it in this surah, وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانَ ضَعِيفًا. And man has been, my goodness. Yeah, you. That's okay, you're going to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
You should have one of these young guys help.
No, it's this thing. I bought one. Abdul Kareem's tripod is not the best. But,
Good?
like, yeah.
You don't look too happy, man. Does this come here?
I don't like it.
Okay, so, ladies, what's your fit now? If we could set, sorry? You know? So the woman's fitna, according to scholars, the woman's fitna is the dunya. To go over. The women and the children were the first to go ahead and go along with that. You know, they're quick to say, okay, you're in charge, we'll do it that way, and leave those other things. Where the men aren't quick to do that, because they have to physically fight those people. They have to compete with those people for work every day. So the battle never ends for them. Does that make sense? You know? And so for the women, they're going to go along with that. And so that fitna has to be put in its context, everybody's fitna. So now we're dealing with Surah Nisa. And so let's go through it piece by piece. We began the first ayah yesterday where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhan nas. He began it with Ya ayyuhan nas. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. We're on page 77. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. So here in this ayah, Allah is telling us, calling to us, O mankind, everyone. Why? Because the theme in this surah is to establish justice, right? Why do we have to establish justice? Because that is the number one ingredient we need when we are coming together to live in a society that is based on Tawheed. Because that's what the surah really is about. When you come together and unite and try to establish a society, a family, a unit based on Tawheed, the number one thing that you will need is adala, justice. The number two thing you will need is to spread knowledge. Right? They say an educated consumer is our best customer. And this is true. An educated worshiper, an educated partner. This is the best thing that you have so that you can work together, working smarter and harder. Does that make sense? Yes? No?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now he begins with this saying, "Oh mankind," because the society is based upon more than just the believers. It's more than that. Number two, he points to in this ayah that we have the first ones that we have to be careful and have taqwa with are those people we live with, meaning our husbands and wives, our children and fathers and mothers, because we are in the same environment with these people a lot. And so we have more opportunities to offend them, right? We have more opportunities to take advantage of them and not to give them their rights. We have more opportunity to deal with them in an unjust fashion. So this is the first person that Allah calls us to point to the fact that we have to be just with. On top of that, he begins the ayat saying, "Ya ayyuhan nas, ittaqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida." One soul. Why? Because in order to establish justice, we have to kill the idea that some of us are better than others. Okay? For racist reasons. And so by reminding us that we all come from Adam and we all come from Eve, helps us destroy the concept of racism, that someone is better than the other. Because then we can just intellectually say, well, why? Why are you better than me? What makes you just like intrinsically? Does that make sense? If we're from the same home, we're from the same parents, then how did anyone get better than anybody else? I'm asking a question. Anybody have any type of legitimate answer?
Society's values.
Sorry?
Values that were placed into society.
So then this would become an issue of morals, right? And then Allah says that the best of you, and Allah is the one that has the highest morals, the one that has the most taqwa. And then that goes back to Iman and the application and the honesty held for in the Iman. But I'm saying in the physical compartment, then no one is better than the other one. Right? And that's what this is starting out. The reason why this is vital, because we have to destroy all the false ideas that help and promote the absence of justice, which is what?
Oppression.
Oppression, dhulm. We have to destroy those and intellectually so we can hold on to them spiritually in our hearts and then move forward with strength. I'll give you examples. In the West here, we were taught knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Isn't that correct? That's the concept that was pushed when I was growing up. But it's really not like that. When I moved to Africa and I was saying that, some of the ulama said, no, you got it back, you got it kind of a little mixed up. It's knowledge, understanding, and then the wisdom comes. Does that make sense? More sense than knowledge. Where you get the wisdom from if you didn't understand it? Does that make sense? So we learn through memorization. Then we seek to understand like we're doing now. We learn the Quran linguistically. It says this, that, and the other thing. Now understand what is the objective of that. And then once we understand it, we can benefit from the wisdom of this, how this has been put in this order. So now we understand, and now, alhamdulillah, inshallah, we can move forward. Then Allah says, وَآتُوا الْيَتَامَى أَمْوَالَهُمْ وَلَا تَتَبَدَّلُوا الْخَبِيثَ بِالطَّيِّبِ. And he says, and give the yatama, the female orphan. Now, we already mentioned that why the orphan is mentioned in the female orphan is because she is the weakest member of the society. Because she does not have any blood relative by the virtue of being an orphan to advocate on her behalf. And at the same time, she's a female. And females are physically weaker than the males in the society. So the concept at the very beginning also is that we're going to focus on our weakest link. And if we strengthen and change and make the rules to support the weakest link, then all the other links will be strong. And so,
Yatama is male and female.
yatam is plural for male and female, but as we're going to see through the context that is talking about the female. Okay? It's true. Orphan, yatam is male and female. However, the context is on the female yatim. The point being, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَنْ لَا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُمْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. So here's the point here, that if you're afraid, the next ayah points it out, that the context is referring mainly to the female, because if you're afraid that you're not going to give this female orphan her rights, then you should marry mathna wa thulatha wa ruba'. You should marry 2 or 3 or 4 women. Now I stopped here yesterday because I didn't want to go into this with only like 5 minutes left, you know, and then get all the hate mail that I'm teasing. No, the point here is there's a rule here that I want to make clarity if people don't know by now. In the West now, we've been taught that the asl with marriage is monogamy. Everybody's heard that, right? And that's incorrect. Monogamy is not the foundation or the origin or the place to start with marriage. The place to start with marriage is mathna, 2, 3, or 4. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this first. And He didn't put any conditions to marrying. And He stated marriage is 2, 3, or 4. And then He put a condition on marrying only one woman. What was the condition? He said, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِيلُوا. Now, but if you are afraid, خوفا أَلَّا تَعْدِيلُوا. And remember, the asl of this surah is all about establishing what? Adl, justice. So the actual word justice is laid out right there in the beginning. That a reason for doing one marriage, monogamy, is because you're afraid that you can't be just in the 2 or the 3 or the 4. Does that make sense? Because when there's no conditions, we call this mutlaqan. You mean you have an absolute right to do. If there's a condition, then you don't have an absolute right. You have to do that based on the conditions, the shart that's placed there. So what does a man have to be just in? Can he be just in the love? Can he be just in his time? Can he be just in his wealth? He can be just in his time that he spends with his family. He can be just in his wealth. Wealth not equal. Justice does not mean equal. He can be fair. Let's say a man has 2 wives. And one wife has 3 children. The other wife has no children. Does he have to give both of them the same amount of money?
No.
It's not fair to the wife that has 3 children that he give the wife that has no children the same amount of money. It's not fair. It's not justice. Let's say one of the wives needs a pair of shoes and the other one has 10 pair of shoes. Does he have to buy her 11th pair of shoe? No. In fact, that would be dhulm, oppression. Because Allah does not like the musrifin, waste. Unless her job demands that she needs 10 pair of shoes, whatever her activities are, then He doesn't need to do that. So, adl here does not mean equality. It means justice, what is fair for those. The other thing here is I want to make a mention. Constantly we talk about ta'addud or plural marriage in Islam. And the ladies complain. They complain because we're having problems with the single marriages in Islam. And that's a good point. That ta'addud, plural marriage, though it is the asl, the foundation for marriage and community, and the thing that would make the men, more manly, and more upon their fitrah, being in a plural marriage, we do have to, you cannot, jump to something that is more sophisticated when you can't do the basic thing. Does that make sense? And what's the basic thing? The basic thing is justice. Knowing our roles in society, meaning knowing our roles in family, first and foremost. Knowing our roles as individuals. It's first, if we look at the fiqh books teach us something. Fiqh is divided in four major parts. Ibadah is drawn from the fiqh of the hearts. Business transactions with all of its deals. Then family provisions, including the meals. Legal proceedings, offenses of law. Then under these titles make everything fall. So now out of these four categories, all 38 chapters of fiqh resound. But look, there's a wisdom in the order. The first thing was ibadah. Okay? And that's the issue, the fiqh of the slave between himself and his Lord. Okay? The fiqh of himself and his Lord, getting his situation right. And that includes, from that next point, then moving forward, does he go to marriage? La. Then the next one is then business transactions. So then it becomes the fiqh of the slave with his trade, as he trades to exist, right? So he has to have that next. We're talking about the men, because the men are the ones that are responsible for the women. As it's going to come in this surah, Allah is going to mention that the role in society, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى نِسَاء, which includes the children. So we are the ones that have to be and fulfill our roles, and were we fulfilling our roles, the woman would be right. And that's what the mafhum of that ayah is, to say that the woman, by the way Allah created them, they are qawwamuna, ar-rijalu qawwamuna ala nisa, meaning the women are created to follow the men, to mirror the men, to watch us and to be kufuwan lana. We step up, they're ready to step up. We don't step up, they stay where they're at. Okay, that's where you're at. So if we complain about how the woman ain't doing what they're supposed to do, and the woman complaining about the men and the children, and everybody's complaining about somebody, who's wrong? Somebody has to be the wrong one, the key, the igniter to change that dynamic. Does that make sense? Allah tells us in this surah, the one to change the dynamic is the men. The one to establish the order is the men. That if it's broke up, whose fault is it?
The man.
The man. And if the wife is broke, the man broke her, because she's in your house. And the way it goes, and this is why in the fiqh, when the woman gets married, what's the first thing she does? She moves into his house. And then we have a period of time, a week, let's say, where they're supposed to be learning, meaning the wife is supposed to be learning what rules you want in your home. How do you want your home to be run? What are these things? But most of the time, the men have no plan. And they think that this period of time is for sex. And that's it. And then that becomes the hee-hee-ha-ha type thing. No, that's what it does. When what's supposed to happen is that there's supposed to be a wasiyah laid down. The serious matter. These are my rules. This is how I would like things. And then they go through that. And they spend that extra time to get it right. Let them show her around. But we have it going around the wrong way. And so it starts off wrong. It continues to snowball in a wrong direction. Because of the men. Because we're not establishing, not all of us. When I say that, I don't want people to come say, well, not me. I'm saying in general. You know what I'm saying? In general. In the society. You know. So how do we change it? We should study this surah. We should study this surah to understand what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And when we understand that, then we can start thinking of practical ways of applying it in our personal lives. Women can kick back because by their nature, they're normally not the ones that are deficient. like we said earlier, how many hypocrites were there amongst the women?
None.
0. That sets a tone. There were 0 hypocrites amongst the women. All the hypocrites were amongst the men. So that shows us the nature of the women. When they down like 4 flat tires. And when they against you, you got Hind. Hind who had Hamza.
What is the makr, Mawlana? It is a kind of nifaq.
ايش؟
The makr.
المكر النساء؟ نعم. Okay,
It's a
but
kind of nifaq.
هذا شيء آخر though. Okay, we talk about that, but I'm talking about aslan. Okay, he's mentioning that not all women are good women, and that there are women in the relationship that have plots and plans. Okay, it's true, and Allah mentions that the plotting of the woman is azim. They have a very sophisticated, and He says the plot of the makr of shaitan is da'if, but the makr of the nisa is azim. So that tells you that that's something what you mentioned. But in reality, when the men are doing justice, the makr of the nisa can't go anywhere. As we see, the makr of the nisa comes in Surah Yusuf. And even though she had her plot, because they laid down justice, her plot was destroyed. So again, it doesn't make a difference, again, where that lady is. If the men are doing their job, it has short legs. It can't get too far.
That's right.
Because the society has been set up. Like, I'll give you an example. In Mauritania, the women do what they want to do. Why? Because the society has been set up to prevent them from doing any harm. Okay? What they can be themselves within the context of the arena that's been set up for them. And when we were studying back in the days with Bilal Phillips, Hafidhullah, he taught us an interesting thing. What's the first right of a woman, of your wife? Most men don't even know that. And we learned that in the 90s. He asked us that. What's the first right? Because he was like, how many brothers want 2 wives? Everybody's like, you know. Me, give me 4. That's okay. You ready for that? Yes. Okay, well, what's the first? Can you take care of her? You can give her rights. I can give her rights. Okay, what's her first right? Crickets.
So I take care of her.
Nope. That's too general.
General, yes.
That's too general. The first right of a woman in specifics is to be in an Islamic environment. So we can.
Also.
It is her first right to be in an Islamic environment where she can practice her deen in safety. That is her first right. That takes care of all of her needs.
Yes, all of it.
Does that make sense, everybody?
That's general also.
It's clear.
It is clear.
It's clear that you don't put your wife in a situation where she has to take off her khimar
Big.
and take off her jilbab and get her khimar pulled off.
It is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is 10 things.
That's the beauty of the Sharia,
Yes.
to have a general room that's comprehensive
Nah,
for the rights of the people. And this is,
that's
again,
comprehensive. Yes.
but see, that means that you can't do that by yourself. That you need a society, a bunch of
That's
men
right,
that
yeah.
you can work. So that shows us what we're supposed to be doing. A
That's
ta'awun, which is going to come in Surah Al-Ma'idah. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, it shows us that in its beginning, what tells us the key to that is what? Ta'awunu ala al-birri wa-taqwa. Wa la ta'awunu ala al-ithmi wal-udwan. Wa-taqullah. Okay? So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we're going to get to that. I don't want to jump too far ahead. Okay? But we're establishing the fact of roles and rights in Surah An-Nisa. And see, that's the beauty of the Quran. And this is what I'm trying to tell us, what our tafseer is. We may not read every ayah, but as long as we get the gist of what the surah is telling us, then when we read it, we can appreciate it. We can search. We can all become mufassirun. As Allah says it again in this, and it becomes unique. What is coming in those particular surahs? Meaning what language, what is actually being said. It's amazing that in this surah it says, Ar-rijalu qawwamuna ala nisa. It's amazing that in this surah it says, Afala yatadabbaruna al-Qur'an. Don't you? Because it's all about establishing justice and the balance.
لا يؤمنون.
Now,
In this surah also, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا
Oh, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ. I was going to tell that story today too. No.
Yes.
And it talks about that as well. So let's get to it. And it's not only amazing that it says it in this surah when the theme is justice, right? But it's also imperative to note and to become sensitive of where it says it in the surah, in the context of the flow of the beginning to the end. Does that make sense what I'm calling to?
Yeah, how it ties into each
And that's the miracle of the Quran. And that's the subtleness that we need to notice so that we can extract from it the motivation and the guidance that we need, because it's not just zeal alone, okay? When I was in the teams, in special forces, there was a lot of guys that were like motivated. They wanted to do it, right? They showed up, but they couldn't do it. And we say it takes more than just motivation and desire. You have to have purpose and direction.
Right.
You get much? You have no purpose first. What's your purpose for being here? If you show up just because you want to be seen, you're not gonna make it past Hell Week, because that's some drama. You get myself? No, nobody can see you. No, it's not cool. Same thing here. What is your purpose? Jannah. Does that make sense?
No.
Allah told us what our purpose should be in Surah Ali Imran in order to remain firm. سارعوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم. Right?
لا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون.
Right? ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. And don't you dare die. But that's a threat. But threats are motivations. Okay? But here Allah says, race to the forgiveness of your Lord. His forgiveness is as wide as the universe and the earth. Does that make sense what I'm saying? That's our mission statement. فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. Race to all that's good. Make that your mission statement. Your purpose. Without purpose and direction, your motivation is going to die. Now, purpose is your niyyah. Get to Jannah. Right? But that's second. The first thing is مَنْ زُحْزِهِ عَنِ النَّارِ. Our first thing is to avoid the fire. وَأُدْخِلِ الْجَنَّةِ فَقَدْ فَازَ. So the order, we get our order from Allah. The one who can just drag himself away from the fire. That's what Allah says. Whoever can just crawl away from the fire and enter the Jannah, then he is the most successful person. He has succeeded. He has victory. So we're in Surah Ali Imran. We know when we want to think about, I need some firmness, read Ali Imran. Right? Now we want to say, what's my role? What's my purpose? What I'm supposed to be doing in a society? We start off with Nisa. Huh? Get my point?
Yeah.
I was giving her rights. So Allah tells us here, listen to it. We're in the beginning part. He told us already. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا. If you're afraid of not doing justice. A little further, it says وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا. And tuqsitu is, again, another word in the Arabic language, a term that means justice. To do things in a correct way. So we see here, again, the theme is being laid out from the beginning that we're promoting doing justice in this surah. Anybody got any questions? So now the first thing we're taught, look at the very beginning. It says, وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ صَدُقَاتِهِنَّ نِحْلَةً. Now why is marriage being focused on in the beginning of Surah Nisa? Because if in the beginning of the marriage, the sadaq, because the society is based on family, right? Based on marriage. If you go into it wrong, it will be wrong in the middle, it'll be wrong in the end. But if you do it right in the beginning, you will set the tone for victory. So Allah knows the nature of women. He says, وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ صَدُقَاتِهِنَّ نِحْلَةً. And give the woman their sadaq, their mahar, as a free gift. Now, it should be, now we have to go to the fifth and understand that women, if you give them a healthy mahar, If you give them a dowry, a nihla means it's a gift. A nihla means that it's to show them respect, to honor them. That's the purpose of the dowry. Sometimes we hear brothers talking about the dowry. Man, I ain't gonna give her that much. Like, yo, you bought a car, costs more than that. Your wife is not worth the car, the price of a car. Think about it. And this is the mentality people take. But if you gave her a healthy dowry, that's gonna set the tone, right? This is not no flimsy get together. Get my point? I expect something from her. You're not buying her, but you setting the tone. I expect a certain type of respect from you, and she's going to give it to you because she sees. She says, "Look what he thinks of me. This is you cut me killer. All right, I'm happy with this cat." So, ladies, is that correct? Now she'll accept a lower dowry because she's a mother, she's a woman, and it's her nature to have mercy. But she's going to treat you like she's your son. You're her son now, because you acted like a son. Oh, you want me to do that? Okay, I'll accept that. That's what I do. Okay, boy, I'll do that. Am I correct, ladies? And that's the mentality she's going to have in the marriage. I did you a favor. Right? I don't have to do this. I could have got, a little bit more from the cat down the street. No, they're not going to have that attitude. That's not lawful. But my point is, anybody that goes into a job that you negotiated for and you don't get the price that you negotiated for, how do they do that job? What is their attitude when they show up? What is their attitude when they have a hard time? Man, I'm not even getting paid what I'm worth here. Right? And so it shows up in their work attitude. Does that make sense? Yes. And we wonder what's wrong. And Allah's telling us right here, this is how you do it.
So your attitude determines your altitude.
Yeah. And the impact that you make on the people is going to affect the attitude they give you as well. Okay? The respect is reciprocal. Everyone has what we call an emotional bank account. And so if you do things and you put something in people's emotional bank account, they'll give you that much credit. Right? And so, that's what it is. And then you can have that much room to deal with them. And marriage is such a thing where you need the participation of all the people involved, especially the two pillars. The two pillars are the husband and wife. And that's why this surah is pinned up next to Surah Al-Lahab. Okay? Because this surah teaches us the adab of a husband and wife, as they come together to strive to get to Jannah, right? And to do what is right. And Surah Al-Lahab is a description of two people, a husband and wife, who strive on dalala, okay? In the opposition of the haqq. And that's why these two are together like that, in the order. And that's another one of the miracles of the Quran. As I've been showing you, the first surah is tied to the last, the second to the second last, third to the third last, and even this, the fourth one, to the fourth last. Isn't that a miracle? Could we have planned that? It's only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the spirit of the message. And we miss all of that because of zombies. We just go through the motions. So that's what we're supposed to be learning here as we go through this. Let's go, because I know it's going to take 2 days to get through here, but we want to, and I'm sorry, I would love to go through each piece. That's my problem. I spend a lot of time at the beginnings and the ends to make you understand what is here, because I'm trying to motivate you. And you should do your level best to try to figure it out. But understand that you're not a mufassir. And so that's you come, and then at least what it will make you is an intelligent questioner. It'll open up the pate to be ready to get further information. Does that make sense? Okay.
Which ayat?
I'm on ayah number 3. I'm actually 4. Okay, وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ أَصَدُقَاتِهِنَّ نِحْلَةً الْحَمْزَةِ. Now, it says, فَإِن طِبْنَ لَكُمْ عَنْ شَيْءٍ مِّنْهُ نَفْسًا فَكُلُوهُ هَنِيئًا مَرِيئًا. Now, if she spends some of that wealth on her, it's her dowry. If after that, if she decides to help you out with that, take that and spend that on the family or do something, that's hers. Okay, then you can take it. But you shouldn't, you shouldn't force her, you shouldn't intimidate her into, I know a guy who paid his wife the dowry, paid the dowry to the father-in-law. The father-in-law gave it to the daughter. Before they even got home, the man was telling the lady that he was going to give some of that money back to him and that he needed it to help to do certain things like that. Before they even returned to their home, the lady, of course, she acts like she's a young lady, she's a virgin, she's never been in a marriage before. This guy takes advantage of that, right? And takes some of the money. Not only the money, but even more money that the lady had in the bank. That wasn't the money. Because he says, okay, well here, take the card. My father gave me this card with the money. He took the card, went to the bank, took all his dowry back, and the money that she had in it. This is the problem, okay? The absence of justice allows those busy women to go and tell and spread a whole bunch of stuff, and now nobody trusts. And trust in the home is the foundation for the home. Once trust is gone, the marriage is over. You're just kidding each other.
هو شغار مولانا.
Shigar?
شغار.
Shigar. No. But we're not going to talk about everything. We're not going to talk about the fiqh, all the different fiqh of those different things like that. My point I'm trying to make is that there has to be justice. Okay? The justice, and it first starts from the men. That's my point. And when we can do that, we can develop trust. Once we have their trust and commitment, then we have a lot to deal with. We have a lot right here. Does that make sense? So we give the women their dowry, and we did it in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to give it to them a nihla as a free gift, something to honor, give them a sense of dignity. They'll be honored to be the wives of those men and feel very proud, not proud, I shouldn't use that term, but dignified to be in that relationship and be ready to do the work that goes with being with such a noble man, such a dignified person. So, the next rule it shows, the next rule goes, وَلَا تُؤْتُوا السُّفَهَاءَ أَمْوَالَكُمُ الَّتِي جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ قِيَامًا. Or in this qira'ah, qiyama, right here. Sometimes I get confused because I'm reading in the house now. I say, hold up, this is qiyama. قِيَامًا وَارْزُقُوهُمْ فِيهَا وَاكْسُوهُمْ وَقُولُوا لَهُمْ قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. This is an ayah I really want to approach to the ladies about. It's for the men too. But we have this problem in the United States. I get a lot of questions about this particular issue. The next thing Allah talks about is how the money should be spent in the home. See that? After giving them their dowry, the next thing is who has the right to control the money? The men. And Allah says, don't give the foolish people, sufaha, their wealth, your wealth, the one that Allah has made for you and means to provide, qiyamah, to keep the family straight and upright. But provide for them from it and clothe them from it and say to them nice, kind words. Okay, this is very important, this last part as well. Sometimes when we say no, men, we say no. But Allah is telling us that even when we say no, we should say no in a nice way. My father taught me this. He said, let's imagine, since we're New Yorkers, it's a New York expression. You go to 34th Street to catch a train, right? 34th Street has all the long distance trains and Amtrak. You get to the window, say, hey, lady, I want the 12:30 train. And she says, it just left, man. You missed it. You're upset now that they laughed at you and said, yo, it's gone. You missed it. Like they happy you missed it, right? So what you start, what do you do? You like that? That's why they got bars. But the same situation. The same situation, you go to the window, you ask the same lady, hey, let me get the 12:30 train. I'm sorry, it just left. Now, how do you feel?
I'll wait.
That's no problem. Don't worry about it. My fault. I got out the bed late anyway. I missed my cab, whatever. Now you're not upset, and it's a different whole mentality. Same message, right? But the second lady said, قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفًا. Okay? And that's what we as men have to do, because we make a lot of the decisions. And we are told, at least I was told, to always say no first. No. Let me think about it. Because women think quicker than we do. They have to. They're much wittier. And any guy that doesn't know that women are smarter than him is even dumber than he thinks he is. Okay? But women are very witty, and they have to be, because physically they're not as strong. So as we focus all our lives on beating each other up and being gorillas, they're always thinking, how can I trick this guy? How can I get around and get my way? Not trick him, but use my intellect to get what I need to get done. And they say this is the best thing about the women. If we can use that for ourselves, it's a good thing. So we're told to say no. When they ask you something, quick, you don't know the answer, whether you should or not. Can I go such and such? No, let me think about it. Why? Because there might be some harm to that you don't know about. You say yes, and then afterwards you find out there's something wrong, and then you say a no after yes. What's a no after yes, ladies?
Yes.
You see that? A no after yes is still because you said yes first. Right? That's what the argument's going to be. Or you're fickle. Son, get away from that food. Come sit over here. How you never get away? Come over here. Come sit over here. I don't know. He's slick. He's over there. Hide behind a pillar. Sit down. We're going to go over there together. But see this. Now, let's say you said no first. Okay? Because if you say yes and then you say no, they want to know why. What you change your mind? Well, I spoke to Nazir and he said that they're doing something that's haram. We shouldn't do that over there. Oh, I'm not married to Nazir. Yeah. I don't care what Nazir said. You know, when you want to follow Nazir, you don't go. I'm still going because you said yes. And there's a doubt. There's this tension. It shouldn't be that way, but we know that happens, right? Now, if you say no first, and then you go find out that there's nothing wrong with that, and then you say yes, then you're generous. You're gracious. You actually thought about it. Does that make sense? Yes. Does it cause any conflict? No. And if you keep saying no, thinking about it, and then come and saying yes when you think that it's okay, then they will get in the habit of giving you more time. Let me go. I got to tell him early because he's going to say no. Okay? I can't hit him at the last minute. Because sometimes I think my wife hit me at the last minute because she know I get caught on my heels. So, okay, go ahead. But if you keep it and say no, then they got to give you more time, and you can plan it out, and hopefully you make less mistakes. Allah knows best. The point here is Allah says, don't give foolish people, the fools. And in the Tafseer, it mentions women and children. It doesn't mean that women are fools. Okay? It means that men normally, before the Pharaonic times and stuff like that, normally are the people who take the money and know what they're going to do with the money or how they want to do with the money. They may tell their wives to do it, but they know how they want to run the money in the family. And so they're supposed to test those people. Allah tells us to test them to see how they spend it. What the point from this ayah, what we get also, what happens if there's food stamps come into the house? Who gets to say how that money is spent? The husband. But we have found here in the States, we have this is what I'm saying, I get a lot of calls when, let's say the family, the husband and the family, they go down, they need food stamps because the society is tough, so they go get food stamps, his name and her name, but they put it in the woman's name. Did you guys know that? They put it in the woman's name, and then they go home and they say, well, I'm going to do this with my. No, that's not your money. Well, it is his money because it's his family. They give them according to his family. They put it in the woman's name in order to divide the family. They call it to destabilization. The same way they do when we go to Africa, and you have the majority group is one people and the major minority is another, and they put the power in the major minority to make an unstable situation. They can never hold the power on their own. So they're always going to be tied to the colonizers. You go? And then the majority people say, man, you guys are traitors because you couldn't hold this without us. The same thing happens in the home. when those people who need government assistance and they put it in the woman's hand and the women think that it's her money. No, Allah shows us here it's the man's money. It's his option to how to spend that money. When? And he is providing because those children are his children. You are his wife. And that's on the accord that they're giving that particular money. So that's what this ayah is, and I wanted to point to that right there because we have this huge issue. Same thing can be said about the tax money that they get for his children. Those are his children. And he allowed you to use their name on the taxes. That money is likewise, whatever agreement you made is an agreement, but in reality, it's his money. Okay? So the government, whatever they do and however they do those things, that's have a different intention, a clear intention to destabilize families. Many times in the Quran, Allah shows us that the worst evil is to destroy the family. What did we learn in Surah Al-Baqarah? What was the magic doing? سحر يفرقون بين زوجي مرء وزوجي. A woman and her husband. She was dividing them. This is what the magic was doing. The extent of it. What was Fir'aun doing? Killing the boys. See, he mentioned them. يُذَبِّحُونَ أَبَنَاهُمْ وَيَسْتَحْيُونَ. Now, why did he call them boys and the other ones women? Anybody pick up on that? Why did he say يُذَبِّحُونَ أَبَنَاهُمْ, the boys? وَيَسْتَحْيُونَ نِسَاء. If we understand that, we understand colonization.
Because they killed them while they are boys.
Not just the murder. Let's not get off the literal. Understand what he's doing is he is destabilizing them while they're children. Okay? He's putting them in a boy position for life.
Like they did us.
Right, by making, I remember when I was growing up in Brooklyn, the police would ask you how old you were. When they see you getting, how old you? And take you down to the police station and arrest you. So that now as you turn 14, you now have a conviction. You get? They're putting you through. Why? Because now you can't get but certain type of job. Once you get that conviction. Does that make sense?
No fine.
Same activities that happen in any neighborhood. Let's say, being honest, in a white neighborhood, those children get picked up and taken home. That same thing happens in a poor neighborhood. Those children get taken to the youth authorities. Spofford, Rikers Island, to prison. Seriously.
No.
And so this destroys them while they're children, but makes the woman yastahyuna nisa. What does yastahyuna mean? It means it makes them struggle to survive, struggle to live. And also al-haya, the second meaning of haya is what? Why you scared? Shyness. So it makes them lose their shyness. By making the woman struggle to live, makes her lose her shyness. Haven't we witnessed that, ladies? The woman got to go out, get on the train, get in a job. The guy's going to try to touch her or say something. Oh, baby, you looking good. You know how it goes at the job. They talk crazy to the ladies. They don't care who she is. And then she has to defend herself. Her husband's not there. And so this makes her become rougher in her character, right? And sometimes they say, I have to become the B word in order to maintain my respect. So she's lost her shyness. Does that make sense? And this is spoken about the evils of forcing the woman out the home, or out the neighborhood, her comfort zone. What was the first right of the woman? The environment that allowed her to live Islamic. You see how that destroys the family? How those tricks of shaitan are to destroy the foundation of society, which is family. And those earlier surah. And then this one is to show us what our roles are and how to deal with certain issues in the family. And so it goes on after mentioning marriage first, because first thing first is how to establish a society, which is through the marriage. Second thing, about how the money should be spent and who it should be given, and about testing them to make sure that they know what they're doing, and then you give it to them. Okay, even the children. If you realize from them any good, then push to them and give them the wealth, their inheritance that they're supposed to get, and take witness. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ حَسِيبًا. Taking everyone to account there. Then it goes on to say how we should deal with inheritance. The next ayah. So we went through, where's ayah by ayah, the marriage, the goings on in the marriage, and now how to inherit. As we go through, and there's many ayah referring to that. One that I want to point to is ayah number 9. Because it says, وَلْيَخْشَى الَّذِينَ لَوْ تَرَكُوا مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّةً ضِعَافًا خَافُوا عَلَيْهِمْ فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلْيَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا. This is, we call this the ayah of insurance. The ayah of? Okay, everybody wants to leave home that life insurance, right? This is the ayah of life insurance. If you're afraid for your children after you and you want to leave them some money, Allah tells you, look, anybody who is going to be afraid of leaving behind him weak young children without anything to provide for them, they're fearful for them, then let them fear Allah, have taqwa. And let them speak straight to the point with them. Why? Because sometimes what parents do, they don't speak straight to the point to their children, right? They let them go ahead naive and they baby them. And what do we call it? What's the word? The S word? Spoil them. And so now this child is not capable of doing what he's supposed to do at an age-appropriate time. What do we say now? 21 is the new 18, right? 15. Sometimes say the new 15, right? What does that mean? It means that the children are getting older and yet being less mature and not achieving age-appropriate goals of maturity. Does that make sense? Whose fault is that, though?
Parents.
It's society's, but it's ultimately it's the parents, because the parents are the members of that society, and the parents can group up with other parents and make an environment suitable for their needs, and establish what the roles are, because the purpose of rearing a child is to enable the child to get along without the parent. Okay? But we're not doing that. And so the children are growing up over-entitled. Okay? Demanding. And downright ugly. I'm saying real. Because we're not being honest with them and doing our roles at an appropriate age. Now we know our parents beat the black off us. Right? Just to be honest. And that was, by Islamic standards, child abuse. Right? Because they whipped us and left us with whelps, tied us to trees. You know? They did. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. Anybody say I'm exaggerating? Anybody 50 and older say I'm exaggerating? No, they did that. They beat you anywhere. But that was publicly acceptable back in those days. Just because we're Muslim now and we know that that extreme that our parents did is not acceptable, the Prophet also put a balance there. And what did he say? He said, hang a strap. Prophet, sorry, it's not an authentic narration, said that the parent hang a strap where the children can see it and know what that strap is there for. Why? So that if it's necessary to give the child some ta'zeer, there's a whole chapter for it in the books of fiqh. How to punish someone for a crime or an act that is not a major sin on the Sharia, but it's a poor adab thing. You know, some mischief. Not to strike them more than how many times? Who can tell me? 9. He says 9. Actually, it's 10. But 9 would be understandable why he would say that. And then most times parents use 9 because they might forget they hit an extra time. So you stop there. You understand? But you can't hit them more than 10 times. You can't bring it above your arm. You can't leave marks. You can't use it, smack them in the face. So there's still some type of a ta'deed. But when you don't do that, you don't even do that, then you spoil the opportunity, the time to do something appropriate for the children. And this will ruin, eventually, society. This will ruin as we are experiencing it now. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yep.
And those of us,
Limitation for the age as well.
sorry?
Cannot hit him at any age, all ages.
Right, of course, Shaikh al-Albani considered it haram to hit a child under 6 years old. However, that's his opinion.
And more than 14 years.
At 10 years old, the Prophet ﷺ said, hit him with the, at 10 years old, Allah's messenger said, hit him with the broadside of a sword.
Till 10 years.
At 10 years. The Prophet ﷺ said, if your child sneaks away from salah and doesn't offer salah, let's say you come home, it's almost Maghrib, you ask your children, did you offer salat al-asr? They say no. Allah's messenger said you're supposed to beat them at that time. He said take a sword, right? Now it has a sharp edge, a dull edge, but a flat edge, and smack them with it. Now, we don't carry swords like they used to now. So the smart thing wouldn't be to do that because the country would lock you up, you know? However, you are obliged by Allah to spank that child so that the child understands that he has violated something. And if it was older than the age of puberty, meaning they're 13 or older and stuff like that, then this is a major sin. And the crime for it is eventually to be beheaded. So, how many children don't even offer salah? Sadly, how many parents don't offer salah? Okay? Because there's one thing that we can say. Your children will imitate your activities. Ahmed ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, during the time of hadith studies, they said, hey, is this person good or is that person good? He said, don't tell me about who his companions are. They said, oh, he hangs out with this one, he hangs with that. He said, I don't care who their companions are. That's not going to tell us. Bring their children. Let them come with their children. By listening to their children, that'll tell us what this guy is really all about. So all you have to do is listen to see what those children are into. If those children know the Sahaba, they're familiar with the names of Islamic history and those things like that. They know Salah and they can recite different parts of the Quran, and that's what they're hearing in their environment. We have children here in diapers that I hear them saying Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah on their own, just singing it while they're playing, while we're sitting here. And there's others walking around saying other things that we wouldn't even say. So what is it? It goes back to wal asr, how we spent that time. 20-year-old child, he's memorized the whole Quran. Next one, 20 years old, he's memorized half. Another 20-year-old, he's got a few, ayat surah from Juz Amr. Another 20-year-old has nothing, but he can tell you all the songs of Jay-Z. Okay? He can tell you that. He can tell you about the Cartoon Network. He can tell you about the new outcoming game and what's coming on the next movie. They had the same 20 years. How they spent that. But let me ask you, does any of those 20, let's say those 20, none of them is working. Where they get this stuff from? Who gave it to them? Who allowed it in their house? Who is the blame? Parents. And the child, because once they're 15, they're on their own. As far as for their mukallaf. So we don't have enough time to finish this right here. This surah is such an amazing surah. We're only in the 9th ayah. Okay? But the gist of it you understand. And inshallah tomorrow we'll have to finish it. It's 176 ayah. I will definitely, we're going to skim through it tomorrow. One of the beautiful things, it begins with Ya Ayyuhan Nas. And it ends with Ya Ayyuhan Nas. Ya Ayyuhan Nas only starts, how many surahs does Ya Ayyuhan Nas start? 2 surahs in the whole Quran. The first one says, Ya Ayyuhan Nas, taqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum walladhina min qablikum la'allakum taqu Allah alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida. So he said the first one begins in the beginning part of the Quran, the first half of the Quran. And to me, that's another miracle. The first Ya Ayyuhan Nas comes in the first half of the Quran and it says, O mankind, everybody, fear your Lord who created you all from one soul. So it's telling us about what? Our beginnings, right? The second, Ya Ayyuhan Nas, and the only other one, comes in the second half of the Quran, in Surah Al-Hajj, where it says, Ya Ayyuhan Nas, uttaqu rabbakum inna
زلزلة الساعة
shay'un azim. Definitely, all people, the shaking, the convulsions of the hour is something that is great. And it's telling us about the beginning of the hour, the next world. Isn't that a miracle too? That not only that the topics talk about the beginnings of both lives, both worlds, but that the placement comes at the beginnings or the halves of both sides of the Quran. Another reason why this should begin, Ya Ayyuhan Nas, what's the first one? When we're reading the Quran, in the fifth page, it begins, Ya Ayyuhan Nas. After Allah explains to us the type of hearts, then it tells us, Ya Ayyuhan Nas, uttaqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum walladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. And it starts here. Now this is the first time Ya Ayyuhan Nas comes too. After dealing with those issues of the heart and dealing with being firm, where is firmness? Firmness is in the heart, right? So after dealing with the issues of the heart, it ends with Ya Ayyuhan Nas. Does that make sense as well? Because what's the dua that we find in Surah Al Imran? رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ. Before we go, I'm going to share a dua with you guys. One dua, and we'll end right here. The dua is this. The problem with all these things is people loving sin. Okay? People do what? Love sin. And so there's a dua that we can learn to keep us from loving sin. It goes this way. Allahumma Habbib Ilayna Al-Iman وزينه في قلوبنا قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان زينه. What it means is, oh Allah, beautify, habib ilayna, beautify for us iman. Not beautify, make us love iman. I'm sorry, I should say beautify. Make us love iman, or make iman loving to us. And beautify it in our hearts. Make it attractive and beautify it to us. Because when Allah says, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ وَالْقَنَاطِيرِ وَالْمُقَنطَرَةِ مِنَ الذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ وَالْخَيْلِ وَالْمُسَوَّمَةِ وَالْخَيْلِ وَالْحَرْثِ وَالْأَنْعَامِ وَالْحَرْثِ. Jazakallah khair. All those things. So we make this beautiful to us. And وَكَرِّهْ, this is the important part, and make kufr disgusting to us. And make open sinning, shameless sin, hateful to us. And make disobedience hateful to us. Okay? Or disgusting to us. This is the dua. I'm sorry, I stepped on your phone. This is the dua that will help you, because you know, a lot of times people, one sheikh was asked, you know, why do people keep committing sin? The sin because people love it. People love sin. So, how do you stop loving sin? Ista'in billah. Ask Allah. Oh Allah. And so you replace the love of sin with the love of iman. And ask Allah, Allahumma habbib ilayna al-iman wa zayyinhu fi qulubina wa karrih ilayna al-kufra wal-fusuq wal-isyan. Sorry? Al-kufra. Kufra is to be kafir, or anything related to kufr. It's called kufra because it's the object that we're trying to be disgusting. Right, maf'ulun.
Covering. Covering.
Wal-fusuqa, al-fusuq, these are the khasirun, right? Allah tells us in Surah Baqarah, the first one, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ, right? That the ones that Allah يُضِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَمَا يُضِلُّ بِهِ إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ, the open sinners, the shameless sinner. That's why he's an open sinner, because he doesn't care. The better sinner is the shameful sinner. He hides his sins, right? So, not to be a shameless sinner. Okay? And the isyan is disobedience. فَعَصَى فِرْعَوْنُ رَسُولَهُ فَأَخَذْنَهُ أَخْذًا وَبِيلًا. So we don't want to be disobedient. So make us hate these particular things. And the word karih is disgusting. As Allah teaches us in the Quran, that He says the person who would you like to eat the pus and the skin of your dead companion? No, that's disgusting, right? That's the way. لَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ, from the same word. You would hate, it'd be disgusting to you. So let us have that same feeling to all acts and all concepts of kufr. Al-fusuq wal-isyan. Please memorize this.
وجعلنا
وجعلنا من الراشدين لكن لا أريد أن أطول على الناس يا رب يا ابن النيل اتقنا فينا وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
تب علينا.